Mantour Ministries presents the Mantour Guy Podcast. We may talk about football. We could mention bacon. We might reference Rocky movies. We'll probably discuss the Mantour conferences, but we'll definitely talk about how to grow in our walk with God. Here's your host, the Mantour Guy, Jamie Holden.
Hey guys, welcome to the Mantour Guy Podcast. Jamie Holden here, and once again, I'm so happy to have you join us today. Well guys, today we're going to be speaking with one of the most inspirational men I know. His name is Dorsey Ross. Dorsey is an evangelist who has a spirit of perseverance unlike few other men that I've seen. He was born with a birth defect known as Apert syndrome, and when Dorsey was born, his forehead was pushed outward and his nose and mouth pushed inward, and his fingers and toes were fused, which meant he had no individual movement of them. And doctors gave his parents no hope for his survival, and they advised they put him into an institution. Well, thankfully, they both knew God, and they trusted God, and they believed that God had a plan and a purpose for Dorsey's life. And throughout his life, Dorsey's had to overcome a lot of obstacles, a lot of trials. He's been teased, made fun of. He had to undergo 68 different operations in a lifetime. But through it all, Dorsey has persevered. And teachers told Dorsey he would not make it to college. And with all the odds against him, he entered Queensborough Community College. And after 4 years there, and after attaining an associate degree, he entered the University of Valley Forge, which is my alma mater. And after years of hard work and perseverance, he graduated Valley Forge with a bachelor's degree in youth ministry. Dorsey's life saying is, "Can is not my vocabulary," because for most of his life, he's never used the word can. He believes that with God, all things are possible, and that he can do all things through Christ who gives him strength. What an encouraging testimony that is. Dorsey's now an evangelist who speaks words of hope. He challenges people to never give up. He's written a book titled Overcome, Discovering God's Purpose Against All Odds. Dorsey's a friend of mine. Just last week, he crushed me in our fantasy football matchup in a league that we're in together. It wasn't even close. He's a good guy, and it's great to have him join us today. So, Dorsey, welcome to the Mantour Guy Podcast.
Thank you.
Well, I shared a little bit in the opening about the challenges that you face in your life, but can you share just a little bit more with our listeners about your disability and how it affects you daily?
Right. Well, I was born with a birth defect called Apert syndrome, which is a birth defect or a congenital birth defect of the hands and the face. And when I was born, my forehead was pushed out, and my eyes and nose were pushed back of my head, and my fingers and toes were fused together. I had no individual movement of them, and I had no skull opening or no room for my brain to grow. So the doctors advised my parents that I would eventually become brain dead, and to put me into, and sign the papers over and to put me into a institution. And thankfully, my parents, both said, "No, we won't do that. We'll just take him home and see what God's gonna do." And they found out at another hospital that they could do operations like me on babies like me. And at 6 weeks of age, I had my first of many operations to open the skull and to allow my brain to grow. And for the most part, it doesn't really affect me on a daily basis. There's certain things I can't do, like I can't raise my hands above my head, but as far as limitations go, there's nothing really limiting me because of my disability that I can't do at this time that I can't do on a regular basis.
Yeah, I know you're an active guy. I've seen pictures of you going to Bronco football games. We're both Bronco fans. I've seen you doing all kinds of stuff, so it's great.
The last two times I went, they lost. So
well,
when they played the Jets, I was like, I don't know. I want to go, and I'm glad I didn't because the Jets destroyed them.
Yeah. Well, many people in your situation having to go through so many operations and having issues like you say in your bio about how people would tease you and how people just haven't always been kind to you. So many people in that situation, they would get angry with God. but instead
Right.
you decide to serve God in ministry. How throughout your life have you kept from being angry with God?
Well, I mean, there are times that I have been maybe not angry with God per se, but I have been angry, and questioned God as to why He would make me this way, or why would He allow me to be born this way. And um, I guess it's not, I guess I just started to realize that God had a plan and a purpose for my life, and that regardless of what happens, regardless of what takes place in my life, that He has a reason and a purpose, for it.
Hmm. That's so true. And, having a lifelong disability myself, I understand how, like what you're saying, how you feel like that. Sometimes you say to God, why did you create me this way? Or why can't you heal me? Um,
Right.
we've talked about how sometimes in ministry it gets discouraging. You and I have talked about that. How do you
Mm-hmm.
deal with these times of discouragement? And how do you keep pressing forward?
It's not always easy. I guess I just, realize that, if God is calling me to do this, and God is calling me to travel and to give my story and to give my testimony, that unless God, stops opening up those doors, that He's gonna make a way, and He'll continue to keep opening up those doors.
Yeah, and I think it's great how you have embraced it. I mean, nobody else has your testimony, and you have a testimony that can reach people unlike anybody else. Nobody else can reach people the same way that you can because of your testimony. And I love how you've taken that testimony and embraced it. And instead of being upset about it, you use it to help God's kingdom. I just admire that so
Right.
much. So, how do you find the strength to not only keep going, but to live full throttle sharing the gospel? I mean, many people in your situation wouldn't want to be a preacher or evangelist, but that's what you do. It's what you love and it's what you're called to do. How do you find the strength to
Right.
keep going?
I think that comes from realizing that in Philippians 4:13 it says, "I can do all things through Christ, give me strength." Obviously, that in that context, that's talking about you know God, in God's will, and in God's will in His time, that He will give us the strength to go through the difficulties and to go through the struggles that we face. And I think realizing that, and just me acknowledging that He'll give me the strength to do what it is that He's calling me to do, and that He's wanting me to do in my life.
Yeah, and then you do it. You every day you do it. I just admire that so much. When did you first hear God call you to ministry and share your message? And honestly, what was your initial response when you felt that call?
Right. Well, growing up, I grew up in the church, and growing up in the church, when I was a young teenager and middle teenager, I started to, as I got older, I started to work, with the youth group, and just started to work with them, and I started to feel like God wanting me to work with them and to minister to them, and just to speak life and speak encouragement to them. And at first I wanted to become a youth pastor. I wanted to. That's what I felt like God wanted me to do as my call. And as I started to graduate from Bible college, and I started to go on interviews, and the interviews never really worked out correctly. They never really worked out to what I thought. It would never go on to the next step in the process of, hey, we'll move you on to the next interview process. And we start to wonder and start to question, all right, God, what's going on? Why is this not working out? This is what you wanted me to do. And long story short, I came home, was encouraged by my pastor, and, said, hey, keep pursuing it. And I was able to give my story and to give my testimony at an outreach event. And, I was playing one day and God said, send this out and see what I'll do with it. And I started to, put packets together and to start to, send them out to different churches and call churches. And that's how God started to open the door for what I do now, to travel around and to give my testimony.
Yeah, and I know you spoke at a church I attended, and the people there, they loved your message. They loved having you there. They were just so impressed with you, and I know that you receive that over and over when you speak. And I know in my life, I told you before I have a disability. I know God's really used my disability to help reach people. It's honestly sometimes I think the fact that I preach with my disability touches people more than the fact of the words I say, which I guess is a good thing, I guess. But anyways, how is it true in your life that, God has used your disability to help reach other people?
Right. I think, it's helped just to encourage, it's helped to, I see people telling you, oh, you're such an encouragement, your testimony of encouragement, you could have given up, you could have, quit a long time ago, but you kept on going, you kept on, living your life. And I know even on Facebook, I've gotten connected with other people that have my disability, and even, parents who have kids with my disability, and they're so encouraged by what I've been through, and it gives them hope, because, doctors may say, hey, your kid's not going to survive, or your kid's going to have to go through this situation, and, giving them hope to say, hey, Dorsey lived a life of, 41 years. Hey, my kid may be able to live that long, or, in the good situation,
Yeah.
People may feel down, they may feel depressed, they may feel, like giving up, and they're like, hey, if Dorsey can go through all this in his life, and he has a disability, but I don't, you know, why am I feeling bad for myself? I can, let me get up and let me go and do whatever it is that, I need to do, or that God's calling me to do.
Wow, that is such an amazing testimony. I never really thought about that, how it's would be an encouragement to children who have the same issue as the Alpert disease, and how it just, wow, that's amazing to hear that it's connected with people. It's a great testimony to hear that. When you go and share with people, what's the message that you want people to hear? What do you want them to take away after they hear you share?
Yeah, I think it depends on what I'm sharing for that day, but I think the most important thing is that with God all things are possible, and that when you're living your life for Christ, that you can become an overcomer, no matter what you're facing, no matter what you're dealing with. When you're facing that Goliath, of the giant, that you can be a David, and that you can, with God's help, that you can defeat that giant, you can defeat that Goliath in your life, and just run the race of life. Just remember that life is not a sprint, but it's a marathon, and that there are times that it's going to be tough, and it's going to be difficult to live and to run the race of life. But you just need to keep going and keep running that race every day.
Shameless plug time.
My plug this week is our newest book, Invincible, is out. Its main theme is through God we are invincible, and there's nothing that we can't do through the power of God. And my friend, you're a living example of that fact, that it is true. Anything is possible through the power of God. Invincible is going to be our Mantour theme for 2019, and you can order your copy of Invincible at mantourministries.com. So head there today and pick up your copy. Dorsey, what would you like to plug from your life and your ministry?
Yeah, I would definitely like to plug, my book, Overcomer. discovering God's plan against all odds. And it's just an easy read. It's 110 pages. It's a really easy read to go through.
And guys, you can check that out. Where can people pick up a copy of that?
You can definitely pick it up on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, my own website, which is just Dorsey Ross, Ministries.com.
Okay, so guys, check it out. So if you want to check out that book, pick it up a copy, hear more about Dorsey's amazing life story, and I'm sure you'll be greatly inspired and touched by the books. Okay, guys, well, we're going to have to take a quick break, and we're going to have more with Dorsey. We're going to have a little bit of fun with Dorsey afterwards, do some fun topics with him, get to know him a little bit better, and then we're going to wrap up this week's discussion of persevering against all odds. It's going to be here on the Mantour Guy podcast.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Like what you're hearing? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thanks.
New from Mantour Ministries, Invincible, scaling the mountains that keep us from victory. You stayed at this mountain too long. These words spoken by God to the nation of Israel thousands of years ago still ring true for God's men today. It's not God's will for his sons to stay stagnant in their walk with God, unable to conquer the mountains that keep them trapped in their old way of life. He wants you to climb these mountains and conquer them. You can learn how in Mantour Ministries' new book, Invincible, Scaling the Mountains That Keep Us from Victory. Available today by visiting mantourministries.com. You can climb your mountains. You can claim victory. In Christ, you are invincible.
Order your copy today at mantourministries.com. Follow the Mantour Guy on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks.
You already know the basics of keeping your kids safe online. Maybe you keep your computer in a public place or you check the browsing history. But did you know that 67% of kids admit to clearing their browsing history? And what about their iPod Touch or their Android tablet? At Covenant Eyes, we want to make it easy for you to protect your kids. And that's why we've created family accounts with all of the users you need and free installation on all of your family's computers, smartphones, and tablets. For a flat rate of $13.99 a month, you can give each person in your home a unique, customized internet experience by giving everyone their own username. Every username gets internet accountability, meaning everyone's browsing history will show up on their own personal accountability report. You can even add the filter to any username for free. So go ahead. Start protecting your kids by knowing exactly where they go and what they do online. And we'll be here to help you along the way. So sign up today.
Sign up for Covenant Eyes using the code Mantour at checkout and receive 1 month of free service. Visit covenanteyes.com today to sign up. And remember, 1 month of free service when you use the code Mantour. That's MANTOUR.
Listen to the Mantour Guy podcast on the go via Apple Podcast and Google Play. Thanks.
Hey guys, Jamie Holden here. Did you know that only 10% of churches have a healthy, thriving men's ministry? That's only 1 out of 10 churches. Well, my mission is to see this number become 100%. Join me in my work with HEUS Missions to help develop men's ministry in the local church. Become a monthly financial investor in the work God called me to do by going to mantourministries.com/partner and clicking on the Give Online button. Together, we can see God continue to move among men.
Welcome back to the Mantour Guy podcast.
All right, guys, we're so happy to be joined once again by my friend Dorsey Ross. He's an evangelist. He's sharing with us today how, in his own life, he has persevered against all odds and how you and whatever you're facing in life can do the same. Before the break, you mentioned your book. Can you share just a little bit more about the book, how that came about in your life, why you decided to write it, and then just once again share how men can order a copy?
Yeah, I have heard over the years, probably like the last 10 years, people tell me, oh, you should write your book, you should, get it out there, get your story out there, and I just started writing. And then I started to get my story out there and start to write it. And then I just got got a publisher and self-published it on my own with a, Christian publishing company. And I got, it took me probably about fully 2 years to get it done, but I was able to, you know, wrote it beforehand as well. And, just about my story, about my life, about, all that I've been through, all the trials and all the difficulties that I faced in my life, and about the 68 operations that I've had to go through in my own life. And again, you can pick it up on Amazon, pick it up on Apple iBooks, all the different ebook formats you can have.
Well, I also know, like we talked about, you go around sharing your testimony. How can someone bring you in to share at their church or their convention or whatever they may be doing? How can they connect with you and get you to come and share your testimony?
Yeah, definitely. You can just connect with me on my website. Again, it's just Dorsey Ross, either DorseyRoss.com or DorseyRossMinistries.com. There's a connect site, a link on that, and there's also a booking link on that as well. If you know a date and know a time that you want to bring me in, you can do that as well. And I just don't share my testimony. I do sermons, I do testimonies, I do interviews. I've done interviews before where church was having a movie series, and they wanted to have me to come in and share my story because they were talking about maybe the movie or the book Wonder or different inspirational movies like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, if you or your church is looking for a great speaker, a great guy, I encourage you, bring Dorsey in. I've talked to many pastors who've had him into their church, and they all just rave about how great of a job he is and how much his people just loved having him there and enjoyed his message. So I encourage you, connect with him and bring him in. Can't give him a high enough recommendation here, guys. Well, in my book, Invincible, which you mentioned before, I wrote the line, "Be a victor, not a victim." And my friend, you're a living example of that phrase. How do you keep yourself from developing a victim mentality with everything you face in life? And, what words do you have for our listeners out there who may themselves be facing a situation where they have to choose between a victim or a victor mentality?
Right. Well, I think when you talk about either being a victim or a victor, a victim is someone who says, oh well, I guess it's sometimes a victim, they feel like it's their own fault, it's their own, they put their blame on themselves, they put the blame on themselves, and they need to realize that it's not their fault for what they're dealing with or for what they're going through, and they just need to realize that they can change and that they can, break through that victim mentality, that they can become a victor when they put their hope and their faith in Christ, and that Christ can break the chains and break the mentality, and they can become a victor through Him.
Amen. That's so true. So, guys, if you're going through a tough time, reject the inside the need to make yourself feel like you're a victim, and instead become a victor through Christ.
It's time for What's Your Surprising Hobby?
I think a lot of people would be surprised that I don't do as much anymore, but I like to go bowling. I like to go bowling. I like to bowl. I used to be on a bowling league at times, and I would like to go back and do that at some point again. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are surprised that I do that, only because of the way my fingers and my hands are deformed. And they also don't realize that I don't put my fingers in the bowling ball. I just use the palm of my hand to throw the ball,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a pretty, good curve on the ball as well when I throw it down the bowling lane.
True grit, stories of passion and perseverance.
Well, what's the bravest thing that you've ever done?
I was thinking about that. I'm not really sure what the bravest thing I ever done was. I guess it's probably being able to go to college and being able to not to quit when I was in college, and because I went to community college and then I went on to Bible college, and I was able to finish both of those. And as hard as it was and as difficult as it was at times, I was still able to finish, and I still was able to get my degrees as well.
Yeah, well, that was very brave. That was awesome. That's how I got to know you, because we have mutual friends from University of Valley Forge, so
Right.
that's
Yeah,
great too.
definitely.
So, who are you picking to win this year's Super Bowl? Like, what teams do you think are going to be in the Super Bowl, and who's going to win?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I would probably say
Don't say the Broncos. It ain't going to happen, my friend.
no. I won't say the Broncos. I would like to see, just because of Pat Mahomes, I would like to see Kansas City get in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure who else. I'm not. I have no idea who else I could see in there.
Maybe the Eagles? I know you like the Eagles,
Maybe
too.
possibly the Eagles.
So, if the Eagles played the Chiefs, who do you think would win?
I would probably say the Chiefs at this point.
Yeah. I picked up Pat Mahomes last year, the very last game of the season. I picked him up off the waiver wire. Just thought, I'll stash him, and I've been killing in my league because of that pick. He's amazing.
The Mantour Lead Pipe. Write it in ink NFL pick.
Well, every week we take a couple football games and we pick who we think's going to win this week's games. So this week we're looking at, it's called our Write It in Ink pick. And this week, Thursday night game, I'm going to say, is our Write It in Ink game. The Raiders versus the 49ers. I'm going to say you can write it in ink. The 49ers are going to win that game. Who do you think's going to win?
I'll probably say 49ers.
All right, and in the second game, we have the Rams versus the Saints. That's going to be a great game. Who are you picking?
I'm gonna go for the Saints.
Yeah, that's who I'm picking too. If it was in LA, I'd probably pick the Rams, but it's at the Saints. So I'm gonna go with the Saints. And then Sunday night we have the Packers versus the Patriots. Another great game. Who you got?
I'm gonna go for the Packers because I can't stand the Patriots.
Exactly the same feelings here. The exact same feelings. I cannot stand the Patriots, so I'll pick the Packers. And then we also have one more game. Our Broncos play the Texans. Who you picking?
Broncos.
Yeah, I got to go with the Broncos in that game, too. I think they're going to go on a little bit of a run here. Unless I saw a lot of rumors always going to start trading away our good players. I hope he doesn't do that, blow up the team, but we'll see. So, this week's picks, we got the Raiders versus the 49ers. We're picking the 49ers for the Write It in Ink pick. We both picked the Saints over the Rams. We both picked the Packers over the Patriots. And we both picked our Broncos over the Texans.
It's time for our lightning round.
Basically, I'm going to ask you a quick question. You just give me the first answer that pops into your head. These are the only questions that you have not seen ahead of time, right?
Right.
All right, so here we go. Cake or pie?
Depending on the cake and depending on the pie, I'll probably say pie at the moment.
All right, who's your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Oh, mine too. What vegetable did you hate as a child that you still hate now?
All of them.
What is something you always wanted to learn to do?
Skydive.
Oh, that'd be cool. What movie or show do you always stop for when you're flipping through the TV channels?
Hit.
All
with
right.
What's his name? I can't think of his name right now.
Will Smith?
Will Smith, yes. Will Smith and Kevin James.
Okay. What song puts you in a good mood?
Ooh. Overcomer by Mandisa.
Okay. What's the last picture that you took on your phone?
I took a selfie yesterday of myself.
Okay. All right, musicals, yes or no?
Since I only saw one musical, and I'm gonna say yes at the moment, for the moment.
Okay. What's the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you that you'll never forget?
They paid for my meal at a restaurant.
Okay. Summer or winter vacations, which do you prefer going on?
Summer.
All right. And finally, hot dogs or hamburger?
Hamburger.
All right, so that was just our lightning round. Let everybody get to know you a little bit better. We just like to do some fun, quick questions like that. So thanks for being part of lightning round. So as we wrap up today, what would be your final words of advice to somebody who's just facing a really tough time where it seems impossible and like there's no way for them to get through? What would your words of advice be to somebody in that situation?
Yeah, just keep pushing through. Don't use the word can't in your life. Don't allow others to tell you that you can't do something in your life. Because no matter what you're facing, no matter what you're dealing with, just keep pushing through and just keep going. Don't give up.
Some great advice there, guys. Dorsey knows what he's talking about because he's lived that in his life. He's never given up. He's never quit. He keeps on pressing through. And it's why I wanted to have him on as a guest today, to encourage you, no matter what you're facing, what you're going through, keep on pressing through against whatever the odds may be. So, Dorsey, thank you so much for taking time today to be a guest on the Mantour Guy podcast. It was great talking with you and having you share with our men. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The Mantour Guy's final thought.
Well, guys, for today's final thoughts, I just want to expand a little bit on what Dorsey said there that at the end, I truly believe that there is no struggle, no situation, no burden in life, no struggle in a relationship. No matter what you're going through, there's nothing that the power of God cannot give you the strength to walk through, cannot give you the strength to overcome. Our job as men of God is to keep pressing forward, to keep following God, and to walk into the calling that He's given every one of us for our lives. God is calling each of us to be men of God who follow Him wholeheartedly, who do everything that He calls us to do, to go where He calls us to go. And we see that in Dorsey's life. He didn't let his circumstances or his disability or anything define him. What defines him is his walk with God and his ability just to follow God and do what God called him to do against all odds. I just admire that so much about him. He's an inspiration to me in my personal life dealing with my disability, and I hope he's an inspiration into your life no matter what it is that you're facing. So thanks once again, Dorsey, for being a guest here today. And guys, once again, thank you for listening and giving us your time to listen. I would love it if you took a second and you shared today's podcast to your social media accounts. We'd love to be able to reach even more men and help them grow in their walk with God. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and leave a review on Apple iTunes and Apple Podcast. Also, guys, we're available on Google Play. And the more 5-star ratings and reviews that you leave, the more men can find us in their iTunes searches. Just this weekend, I was talking to a guy at a conference I was at who told me he found the podcast by searching for it on Apple Podcasts. It popped up when you did a word search. When you like it and you give reviews, it helps more men be able to find it. So I ask you, please help us do that. Also, don't forget, visit MantourMinistries.com to learn more about our conferences, our books, and our resources. Thanks for joining us again today, guys, and we'll see you next week on the Mantour Guy Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Mantour Guy Podcast. Be sure to visit MantourMinistries.com to learn more about our books, men's ministry resources, and our Mantour conferences.
Hey guys, the Mantour Guy, Jamie Holden here. I'd love to come share at your church, at your men's ministry, at your next men's event, or men's breakfast. I have a challenging word for God's men to help them become the men that God has called them to be. If you'd like to have me come share with your group, visit MantourMinistries.com to contact me. about coming to challenge and encourage your church's men to grow in their walk with God. Before we go, guys, one last thing. We did talk about it in the podcast, but if you sign up with Covenant Eyes at covenanteyes.com and you use the code Mantour when you check out, you can receive 1 month of free service. Guys, what do you got to lose? You can try for 30 days, see how great it is, see how helpful it is to your walk with God. I guarantee you're not going to want to get rid of it. You're going to love it. So try it, protect yourself, protect your family, and raise up a standard against the enemy as he is trying to attack you and your loved ones. Try Covenant Eyes for free for 30 days using the code MANTOUR. It's MANTOUR at covenanteyes.com. Try it today, guys. What do you got to lose?
The Mantour Guy Podcast, helping men grow in their walk with God.